Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. And before we get into today's topic, I'm having some technical issues on my side with my my old computer setup is just messed up. It's like a 4-year-old computer that's gone through some wear and tear. I have one working monitor. I have a bunch of things that are crashing. I'm hoping my editing software holds up. I've got a new computer on the way. Should be around within a week, and then hopefully I can set up the whole office to be a little bit different. So if the video is not, the next few week of videos isn't quite up to my usual standard, that's why, and I apologize, and hopefully we can get some nicer stuff going within the next week. But anyways, let's go on to today's topic. And also, thank you guys, we had 34,000 subs. That's ridiculous. We're closing in on 35K. So if you haven't hit the sub button yet, and you like the channel, I'd also really appreciate that. 35K would be one hell of an accomplishment that I'd be really proud of. Anyways, okay, let's go into the topic. Enough of the rambling. I wanted to talk about why I am really getting more and more concerned about the quest lines from United and Stormwind. Why I'm a little bit worried about the devs' perception of them. It seems like they seem to have a very different perception of them. And I'm gonna talk about a tweet from Ixar. I've been pretty critical of Ixar lately, and I don't want to be, but I do want to use one of his tweets as an example. And I just why I feel like they've just been like a mistake that is really harming the game outside of the select few that really love this meta, and they seem to all be pro players and casters and very few people other than that. But regardless, the quest lines. So the quest lines, the way, basically, let's just start with this tweet from Ixar. This was from an AMA last week, and I intentionally left it out of my AMA recap. And by the way, I didn't do an AMA recap for this week because I don't know. It just, the videos don't seem that worth it. I'd rather just do my topic videos, and maybe we'll come back to it. But regardless, this was from an AMA a week ago. This was a question he was asked. It was, persistent effects seem to be a difficult space to work in. They lead to a sense of inevitability, especially in control matchups. A card like Demon Seed seems a lot like the Crystal Core, which we've made that comparison a lot, by the way. A card which saw a lot of iteration. It was nerfed like twice directly, a bunch of other times indirectly. Would you agree there are similarities? And then Ixar responded with, definitely upsides and downsides. Having direct objectives for a deck makes building that deck distinctly different than other decks before it. However, if you pay a steep cost in deck construction, you should be rewarded appropriately. Appropriate rewards for steep deck building costs need to be quite large, so large that they are usually game ending. I don't think this means these styles of decks should never exist, but there is a reason we don't do quests with huge rewards every expansion. So in regards to this, I completely agree with Ixar. I completely agree that if you're gonna have like a quest that's like game ending, that's ridiculous, right? With the crazy win condition, like Caverns Below was pretty game winning back in the day, getting 5/5s very quickly, or just in general for the rest of the game was pretty game winning. However, these quests don't fit this definition whatsoever. The quests that are like warping the meta, that are dominating the meta. I mean, look no further than the Demon Seed. The Demon Seed, you can literally throw, like, you put it in every Warlock deck. You don't need to build around it pretty much at all. Like, what do you need? Backfire, Raise Dead, and you have the 2-mana removal spell. You're going to run those cards anyways. They're insanely good. There's no, like, sacrifice. Like, if you remember the old Caverns Below Quest Rogue deck that had this issue of, like, polarizing the meta and locking control out, it ran a bunch of crap you would never want to put in a deck for the most part. You ran like pandas. People ran wisps. You ran like Stone Tusk Boar and South Sea Deckhands, and you ran all the like Igneous Elemental and Firefly in the early versions. Like, you ran all these terrible cards, but you had this steep build around to get to this reward. You look at the Demon Seed, you got to run what? Flesh Giants? You run that in every Warlock deck. You run all these cards that you would just run anyways, and they have this whole Delete Warlock from the last expansion, and because they made that, which was, had Niru in mind to get all these 3/2s, there's all these cards that just are rewarded for deleting your deck, for drawing through your deck, and well, the Demon Seed just indirectly gains this reward. Like, you just put Bristleback, you put the 1-mana 6/6 taunt in there, because it was supposed to go and delete Warlock, but when Fatigue just goes face, well, why not throw it in there? There's really no negative to destroying your deck going through it. I mean, we're seeing people just deleting their decks because, well, they want to get their quest done. And it's just the Demon Seed you just throw in. You just throw in, and that's my problem. Like, this statement the Ixar has here is a good, very, very, like, I think a very good thought statement. And if it was accurate for what these quest lines were, I think I'd be fine with it. But you look at the Mage Quest, that's another example. You play your Mage Quest reward, you're winning in like 2 turns. You're going to play Cram Session and draw through your deck. But do you remember what Spell Mage looked like before Quest Mage was a thing? It's pretty much the same deck. You're not really building around that. It's like not very steep build around. Like, you run a couple of cards you might not run, like, you know, a couple of frost spells, like maybe Ice Barrier, you wouldn't run 2 of them, right? You wouldn't run the 0 mana freeze spell. That's probably something you wouldn't run. But pretty much everything else you're going to run in that deck anyways, right? It doesn't really require a build around. And then the condition is game winning. You can't beat that. Plus you throw Ignite in there, it's just a whole different story. Same for the Shaman quest for the most part. Like, yeah, you have Overload cards that are you really not going to want to run Lightning Bloom? Like Perpetual Flame you probably wouldn't run normally, but now that you don't get overloaded because of the first proc of the quest, it's good. But even then, for the most part, they're just really good Shaman cards. There's not that big a build around, but to be fair, Quest Shaman does have a bit more of a build around, but it's not a steep one. It's not a steep one. Like, if you look, like I said, Caverns Below. Let's go with another example. The Jungle Giants. You had to run like a 4 mana 5/1 Death Rattle that, like, it's terrible. That doesn't do anything, but you had to run it to, like, activate your quest. Look at, like, from Old Doom, a couple of the quests there. None of them were really that game winning, but let's say the Warlock one where your cards cost 0. You had to draw 20 cards. You had to run cards like Plot Twist that, you know, were kind of frustrating. You know, they weren't that great. You played Plot Twist basically, you know, to get the quest done. You might get some healing, I guess. You would heal for 4 with, like, the demon that you could reshuffle, but nothing like we're seeing now. And the whole philosophy around, like, these quest lines seemed flawed. Like, if it's going to be a game-winning reward, you would expect it to be more difficult to accomplish. And the quest line procs themselves, like, make it even easier. Like the Mage quest line proc, right? You draw a card, you discover a spell. Like, you get incentives. Sometimes the questline proc is so good you don't even care about the quest reward, like we saw with Demon Hunter. So I'm really worried. I'm really worried about the game, because if you look at the ladder right now, it's still just quest decks and then aggro trying to kill the quest decks. And how do you change this? How do you fix this? Like, is the next expansion going to have to power creep this? But how do you power creep something that starts in your hand, is completely ridiculously consistent? Like, even hero cards can't really do the trick unless they're really cheap and start in your hand. Like, I don't know where we go from here. They're so powerful, they're so game winning. And even you look at one that doesn't see a ton of play right now, like the Hunter quest. It's Raza and Anduin in one card that always starts in your hand and is basically always active by turn 6 and 7. It's just a bit slower than these other quest decks, so it's not as prevalent. But if they would fall off, then this would pick up and we'd still be quest decks versus aggro. It's like, is that all we're going to have? We've deleted, like, all the wild strategies. They're all gone. It's just, these quests, I just feel like have been a mistake. I'm at that point where they were kind of fun for the first little bit, but now that we're a month in, I just kind of want them gone. I want them scaled back so much, and I feel like without a significant nerf to all of them for the most part, I don't know where we go from here. I'm really worried. And, like, we got the mini set coming out. How is that going to change things? Like, what has to happen to change stuff? Like, the power creep that's going to be required to make this stuff not the dominant thing and to somehow get control back in the game. It's a mess. And I'd love to hear your guys' take on it, because I'm at a point where, like, I'm like, are they just too far down? Like, have they just put themselves in this really bad position where they're going to have to mass nerf a bunch of these things? Or am I just losing it? Am I just, like, exaggerating? Because the more I play the game in Standard, the more I think about it, the more I watch it, I just don't know where we go from here. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about all this. I'm scared. I'm scared, and I'm worried because a lot of people really hate these strategies and can't play their decks, and I don't know how it's going to change with these quest lines the way they are. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.